Hello and welcome to Bottom Line. Tonight, viewers, we will look into the Chakma Hajong issue in Arunachal Pradesh, which has been making headlines for some time. While the Arunachal Pradesh government and a number of pressure groups and NGOs in the state have been calling for relocation of the Chakma Hajong community from the state, leaders from the community have been opposing the move tooth and nail. The latest bone of contention at this moment is an alleged census that is being termed as racial profiling by the Chakma Hajong leaders. In fact, just recently, several organizations representing the Chakmas and Hajongs staged a sit-in protest at Jantar Mantar in New Delhi, accusing the Arunachal Pradesh government of singly carrying out census on both the communities residing in the frontier state and termed it injustice towards them. The various Chakma Hajong organizations who staged the protest also submitted a memorandum to the centre on the issue. So what is the way forward under these circumstances? The Arunachal government has, as I have already mentioned, been calling for what it is calling an honourable relocation resettlement for the Chakma Hajong community. Will that be acceptable to the community? These are some of the questions that have been asked frequently. And to discuss this issue today, I am being joined by from Itanagar by Mr. Tobam Dai, AAPSU General Secretary. Welcome, Mr. Tobam Dai, to Northeast Live. I also have with me Mr. Suhas Chakma, founder, Chakma Development Foundation of India. Thank you, Mr. Chakma, and welcome to Northeast Live. If I can come to Tobam Dai first. Tobam Dai, well, the Chakma organizations, Chakma Hajong bodies have been staging repeated protests. The latest protest was held last week over the alleged census issue, which they are terming racial profiling. Your first reaction on the current developments?
You see, we have the AAPSU and the people of Arunachal Pradesh have been requesting the government that the exact census of the people, the Chakma Hajong community residing in the state have to be done, because since they were resettled here, they were brought as refugees in 1964 to 69. They were settled. They were figured they were like 2,748 families, and the population running into at that something like 14,888 as per the state government white paper. But at this present time, there has been exponential population growth, and the record that there are many Chakma Hajong people that they were not part of the 1964 to 69 resettlement policy. They have come afterwards. So we have been asking the state government and the central government that a census should be done so that there should be more clarity. And I think this is just a routine government exercise. But it's unfortunate that the Chakma Hajong community of the state, and more so, there are many organizations outside which our Suhas Dada, his organization is also terming us and racial profiling and creating lots of hullabaloo on the issue and trying to derail the process. But we are firm on our demand. We are firm on our stand that the state government should anyhow carry out, because this is a government exercise, and no outside forces should able to derail this process.
Okay. We'll take reaction. We'll take reaction from Suhas. We'll take reaction from Suhas Chakma on this. Tobam Dai, well, the Arunachal government has also maintained that they want a relocation, a resettlement, an honourable resettlement for the Chakma Hajong community. But given the current circumstances, how difficult will that path be according to you? And also, of course, organizations like the AAPSU and several other student bodies has also been demanding same for quite a few years now.
Regarding the relocation and deportation from the state, it has been our long-standing demand. But we have seen that the successive government in the state and the union central government has done nothing on that part. But today, in the recent time, we are seeing that the central government and the state government, they are serious on the issue, and we welcome that, because whatever will be done by the government, it will be under the ambit of the Indian Constitution. It's an honorable relocation or whatever you may term it, but we are welcoming that, and I think whatever the government will carry out, it will be in the best interest of the Chakma Hajong community and also for the indigenous people of the state.
All right, Suhash Chakma, the AAPSU leader is saying that this is just a routine census. You're making a fuss out of nothing. This is just a routine census. Why so much of opposition to it?
Well, I mean, a routine census would involve everybody. And the moment I think you pick up particular communities based on their ethnicity, then of course the issue of Article 14 and discrimination based on race, ethnicity, etc. arises. Now the question is, what are the number of Chakma population in Arunachal Pradesh and Hajong population? See, the APSU will give its figures, Chakmas will give their own figures. Both the figures could be prejudiced. I think the exact figures can be given by only the Registrar General of India, which is the actual authority for conducting census. And the last census, which was conducted in 2011, and in fact, only a few days back, I had found out after looking at the linguistic survey out of the 2011 census, how many Chakma speakers here. There were only about 42,000 Chakma speakers in 2011. So if you look at the figures which Tabam had clearly mentioned, that 14,800 something people had come in 1964, and after a gap of say 60 years, if they become 42,000 in 2011, maybe around 55,000 at this point of time, then there is no exponential growth, because the figures which were given by the Census of India in 2011 cannot be challenged by anybody because they are authentic. So if you look at the population which was there in Arunachal Pradesh at that point of time in 2011 and 2001, you will find that the number of people who speak a particular language is there. So in my view, I think the census, if the Arunachal Pradesh government wants to conduct, it has to be on all communities, and it will be very unfortunate to say that only if there are any kind of illegal immigrants belong to the Chakmas or Hajas. I have seen, and we have seen that the Northeast as well as Arunachal Pradesh specifically, all said and done, Chakmas and Hajas are settled by the government of India. So that issue of the permission to be settled is has been decided by the competent authority, which is the government of India. And if you go to Namsai area, and if you go to Papumpare area, and I would say that the population of the Muslims, I am not being religious here, the population of the Muslims in Papumpare district and in Namsai district are more than the Chakmas. So why are the Chakmas are being targeted? And look at the figures of census. See, census in Arunachal Pradesh was conducted only in 1961. Then 71 onwards, all of them have been.
Well, the contention is getting equal rights to those of the indigenous people. The population that you are talking about may be more. They are not demanding rights at par with the indigenous people. That is the bone of contention of the AAPSU here. The AAPSU leader also mentioned that many people actually came after the 1960s and not as per the figures that you are giving. Any clarification you want to make on that?
Yes, see, the Chakmas enjoy scheduled tribe status in Assam, in Tripura, Mizoram, Meghalaya, and West Bengal from 1950 onwards. So why would the Chakma, who enjoy scheduled tribe status in terms of its access to education, political empowerment, jobs, etc., why would they go to Arunachal Pradesh to become refugees? So that's why I'm saying there is no there is outward influx of Chakma from Arunachal Pradesh because they do not get the basic documentation, they do not even get the birth certificate, and then of course then they come towards the in Delhi itself there is a large community working in the factories and etc. See, when you want to start a census, today the government of Arunachal Pradesh says, okay, we'll conduct a census based on 1964 and 1969. Fair enough. My first contention is how many people we are issued documents by the state government of Arunachal Pradesh to its people, irrespective of caste, creed, or ethnic origin in 71. Because the census was conducted first in 1961. So the state itself did not reach, the government of India or the NEPA administration did not reach out to the people in 1960s and 70s. And if you look at the Chakmas and Hajongs, In 1980, the employment was banned. In 1991, the ration cards were taken by the state government. The birth certificates were not issued. Then, of course, you were not admitted to the schools and etc. Then, the voter list, Chakmas are not enrolled. So there has been a systematic discrimination as well as snatching of the documents by the government of Arunachal Pradesh. And today, if they come and say, show it to us, then of course I would say that if there is a genuine census, whoever it is, if all the people of Arunachal Pradesh it is done, I have a firm conviction that the Chakmas have more documentation than any other community. We have to remember that when in Assam, the National Register of Citizens was conducted, about 500,000 indigenous people, including the Bodos and the Nepalese, they didn't have the documentation. Nepalese have been given exemptions by the Himanta Biswa Sarma government at this point of time. Now, Nepalese did not come from Bangladesh. Bodos do not come from Bangladesh because there is no Bodo whatsoever in Bangladesh. So, are we presume that these people have come from foreign countries? Obviously not. But if we are going to identify based on equality, based on same documents, I think Chakmas would be able to prove with more documents than any other community, because the state, when they came in 1964 to 69, they were given more documentations than anybody else. If the Chakmas were in Arunachal Pradesh, they would also would not have cared about documents, just like Bodos who didn't care, because the law doesn't make an exemption to the Bodos. The Bodo also has to prove. And the biggest difficulty which Assam is facing today is how do you prosecute the Bodos as alleged foreigner from Bangladesh? You cannot do that.
All right, that is a different issue. That is a different issue. But again, the contention here, if we have Tobamdai online, okay,
yes,
we'll go back to Tobamdai in a while.
Please.
Yeah. Okay, Tobamdai, Mr. Suhas Chakma here is saying, okay, well, we did come in the 60s, but we have all the documentations and we have been here for decades now. Our population, if you compare back then and now, has not grown substantially. So the threat that you're talking about of outnumbering the indigenous may not be real. And what is the problem in accepting us since we have been here for decades? That is something the Chakma leader here is saying.
You see, there is no question of accepting because we were temporarily brought as refugees, because the history, the genesis of their coming, everyone knows, because there was problem in Bangladesh, in the Chittagong hill strike at that time, and the Indian government at that time, without taking the consent of the people of the Arunachal at that time, Nepalese, they have brought them here. But at this time also, if they stay in their allotted blocks, if they don't intrude into the local indigenous land, if they don't usurp in the local indigenous people's land, and if they don't intrude into the wildlife sanctuaries, we have not much of a complaint. If they comply by the state government rules and regulations, if they comply by the central government rules and regulations for their stay here in the state. But you see, the story, the picture is quite different in the ground. Their numbers, I'm citing an example because when you speak of the indigenous people, Arunachal is just merely of 14 lakhs indigenous population, and that too, there are so many tribes, sub-tribes, and the areas where they are predominantly settled, it's in Dayun area, Namsai area, and the tribal people residing there are the Singpo community and the Kamti community. The combination of both the communities, the population combinations, the total population of both the communities maybe around something like 60 to 70,000. But today, the Chakma and Hajong, their populations were pegging at around 150,000. So there is a demographic change. And I'm asking, through you, I'm asking Suhas Dada, what's the big deal? If they are not, he is saying that there is no problem, everything, documents are all right, whatever the people staying in Arunachal Pradesh are legitimate people that have been brought in 64 to 69. Why so much of fuss about this census? I once again reiterate, this is a routine government exercise, and then government is being elected by the people. It's a democratic country, and the government is the authority. If tomorrow, if we want to, if AAPSU says that we will start the census, then it will bring in lots of law and order problem. Today, the government is is trying to carry out the census, but they are not cooperating. They are making lots of misleading statements, and they are spreading out misinformation. So I'll rather request to Suhas Dada and his organizations also, and to the Chakma Hajong community of the state, that please cooperate with the state government. It's, I think, it's a good step, it's a positive step for all of the community of Arunachal Pradesh.
Well, Suhas Chakma, respond what the AAPSU leader, as you just heard, has said that, Arunachal, of course, the population is low and it's divided into tribes. Please, what he's saying is that stay in the allocated areas. There are allegations that the Chakma Hajong populace is intruding into the reserve forest area and areas where other tribes are residing. Secondly, he's saying that the Chakma Hajong population would be anywhere between 1 lakh to 1,50,000. And what they want is that the people should stay in their designated areas, the areas in which you originally settled when the population came back in the 1960s. And also, you also heard what he said about the census. Your response, Suhas Chakma.
Tawam is an old friend. I will only say this, that, in the local Singpo and Kampi communities, the Chakmas, as well as Mismi communities and all other groups, Chakmas had come in 1964 and 69. And unlike entire Northeast India, the Chakmas and other communities never had any kind of clashes, physical clashes. Sometimes boys may have differences, but we have lived peacefully and there are no problems with the local communities. And if there are issues which needs to be guaranteed with respect to ensuring political rights of the Singpos or Kampis, of course, state government could take measures so that they do not lose their political powers. So you could create special legislation to protect this community. So that's one aspect. The second aspect is with respect to Chakmas encroaching on the lands. It would be very unfair to say that the Chakmas are the only communities. And in fact, I would say Chakmas and Hajongs, if they had encroached any other land, the forest department would have taken actions by now. If anybody, encroaches law or breaks law, then of course, the authorities are most welcome to take lawful actions. And I have not seen anywhere where the Chakmas have not been rejected, the cases have not been adjudicated before the court on merits. They have found it, and at different point of time, the governmental authorities have approved wherever the Chakmas have settled. Now, on the issue of census, see, I think the key issue is dignity. Human dignity is something which is so, non-negotiable. Now, Chakmas are voting. They are citizens by birth, and there are about 6,000 Chakmas voter list. And their family members are also obviously covered by their protection. Now, if a Chakma has to stand in the queue, and a Deuri or an Ahomia or somebody else doesn't have to stand in the queue, it's very demeaning for the Chakmas, because we are also citizens, as much as the Ahomias or the Deuris or the Adivasis, who also have not been settled, actually, unlike the Chakmas, by the government of Arunachal. So, one of the reasons we are opposing, because it is demeaning, it discriminates, and it doesn't feel nice every time to be told that you are an outsider, even though we are born and brought up there. Now, with respect to the actual number of census, whether 150,000, 40,000, the census is going to be conducted very soon. The general census, which was conducted in 2021, it will be conducted very soon, and the actual figure, including total population of the state and the Chakmas, the languages, etc., will come up. I think Chakmas had cooperated earlier. When the Chakmas do not cooperate, when it becomes too intrusive, seeking information. So it's a routine exercise. If routine exercise is there, of course, Chakmas would have cooperated with census. See, any action taken by the government need not necessarily be legal. So whether it's taken by the government of Arunachal Pradesh, government of India, or any other. So that.
Tabamdai, what could be the way forward to this impasse? I mean, this has been a stalemate for months now. What could be the way forward to the impasse? We are running out of time.
The way forward, what I see is that the central government, the union government has clearly spelled out, and the state government is spelled out by seeing the nitty-gritties, and because this is a long drawn issue since 64, it has come a long way, and as I have said, central government has clearly stated that there will be an honorable solution relocation to the Chakma Hajong people of Arunachal Pradesh under the ambit of Indian Constitution. I think on that part, I think what I personally, as an AAPSU leader, as a student leader, as a youth leader of the state, and as an indigenous person, as an individual from this state, what I see is I think we have to cooperate with the central and the state government and have to explore what they are saying rather than creating stumbling blocks, rather than creating spreading out misinformation and misleading the masses. I think in all these years, I think this is the best time. What I see is that this is the best time, best of the most opportunate time that the government of India and the government of Arunachal Pradesh is serious on the issue. And I call upon the Chakma Hajong community to avail, to grab the opportunity both hands. Otherwise, I think, as I have said earlier, our stand is clear that at no point of time, I think we'll never be able to accept them as a part of the greater Arunachal society. So I think the way forward is that whatever the state government and the central government is trying to find a solution for the long vexed issue, I think it's the way forward.
All right, well put there. I think we have lost the line with Suhas Chakma, but of course a lot of inputs, perspective from his side as well. We hope the stalemate comes to an end and let the best decision prevail. Thank you so much, Tavam Dai, for your time. Thank you so much, Suhas Chakma. We'll step into a very short break here. Lots more on the other side.